Defiant Eurosceptics vowed to fight on against Theresa May's deal today despite the mounting threat that she will be forced to delay Brexit unless rebels get behind her. Tory MPs insisted they would stare down growing pressure to back the PM's package unless there are significant concessions from the EU. The high-stakes wrangling comes as Mrs May desperately scrambles to fend off efforts by Remainers and Labour to tie her hands in a series of crunch votes on Tuesday. Jeremy Corbyn looks near certain to back an amendment proposed by Yvette Cooper that would pave the way for the UK's departure date to be delayed beyond March. Allies of the Premier have conceded she will be forced to try to extend Article 50 if the House passes the mechanism. There have been glimmers of hope for Mrs May amid evidence that Eurosceptics and the are looking for a way of climbing down and supporting her plan. Tory loyalist Simon Hoare told MailOnline today the penny appears to be dropping among hardline colleagues that the price of Brexit might be lost unless they compromise. But backbencher Johnny Mercer was praised by Eurosceptic MPs this morning after he demanded that Parliament stops cowering from no deal. Are we brave enough to face down the prospect of leaving the European Union without a deal if that's what it takes to keep the promise that has been made to the British people? He said. The PM has been presented with 9 options for breaking the bitter deadlock in Parliament, including securing a unilateral get-out clause or time limit on the Irish border backstop. On Tuesday Mrs May will ask Parliament to endorse her plan B for finding our way through the Brexit impasse, which involves tweaking the deal that was humiliatingly rejected last week, and bringing it back for another dramatic showdown. But an amendment tabled by Yvette Cooper would effectively turn the constitution on its head by seizing control of parliamentary business from the government, allowing backbench MPs to put forward legislation demanding an extension to the Article 50 process. Labour has signalled it will back the plan to stop the UK crashing out of the EU, along with more than a dozen Tory rebels, giving it a real chance of success. If the amendment is passed, the bill will come before Parliament on February 5, and if it becomes law Mrs May will have to ask for an extension by February 26. Mrs May has also vowed to try and defeat amendments calling for a permanent customs union, and a further series of indicative votes on what should happen next. If she succeeds, the House will give tacit approval to her strategy of tweaking her Brexit deal and bringing it back for another dramatic vote. However, the government also appears to be encouraging MPs to back an amendment from Tory MP Andrew Murrison that would effectively set a time limit on the backstop of December 31, 2021. some ministers hope that if the Murrison amendment is passed it will build pressure on the EU to consider an expiry date on the backstop, which Brexit airs fear the EU will be stuck in forever, and But believes risks splitting the union. Writing in the Telegraph today, Mr. Mercer, a former army officer, complained that the government did not appear to have the minerals for the fight.
I think it's genuinely dangerous, but blundering into being a junior partner in an international relationship we cannot unilaterally leave, and going against what you have said previously, he said.
Now British BN could ever do, and treat Northern Ireland differently to the rest of the UK. Trust, leadership, values, we must uphold them to the British people. Der Deal did not.
The intervention was praised by a series of Tory Eurosceptics on Twitter. Meanwhile, other hardliners raged at the chief of Airbus for pushing Super Project 4 after he warned the company could quit the EU if there is no deal Brexit. Conservative MEP David Campbell Van Erman said on Twitter, "Here we have a German CEO putting EU interests first before his own employees." A disgrace. Tory MP Mr. Hoare said he still detected signs that opinion was shifting towards Mrs. May. I am surprised it has taken so long for the penny to drop, but a penny does appear to be dropping. There is no appetite in Parliament to leave with no deal. They, Brexiteers, are now understanding that there has got to be a compromise, and then the PM's deal can be supported, or the price is going to be dashed from their lips at the 11th hour. Jeremy Corbyn said today that Labour will not make a final decision on whether to back the Brexit delaying amendment until the day of the vote. Speaking during a visit to Wolverhampton, near Milton Keynes, he said he had met with Mrs. Cooper. He added, "We will decide at the time whether we fully support it or not." "I had a very good meeting, a very useful meeting, with Yvette Cooper yesterday. I understand what she is saying, there is a lot of merit in it. We, as a party, will make our decision. Mr. Corbyn reiterated his call for Mrs. May to remove the threat of a no-deal Brexit, adding, "We are not calling for an extension of Article 50 but quite clearly if Theresa May runs the clock out the way down MPs are going to recognise the dangers of leaving with no deal." In a much-needed piece of good news for Mrs. May, Remainer MPs have dropped their bid to force a parliamentary vote demanding a second referendum, admitting they do not have enough support to get it passed. The gang of Labour and Tory MPs who were backing a so-called People's Vote blasted Jeremy Corbyn for killing off their chances of winning.
Instead, Labour has merely proposed a wording that would leave open the option of a referendum after a Brexit deal is passed by the Commons. The Lib Dems still have an amendment tabled that would endorse another national vote on Brexit, but it might not be selected by the Speaker as there is limited cross-party support. Mrs May was reportedly presented with 9 scenarios for breaking the parliamentary deadlock by her chief Brexit advisor Oliver Robbins. They included getting a unilateral exit mechanism from the backstop, including an end date on it, or the whole EU being in regulatory alignment with the EU rather than just Northern Ireland. The idea of withholding some of the £39 billion divorce bill until the EU has signed permanent trade terms with the EU has also reportedly been mooted. However, at least 3 of the options involve reopening the withdrawal agreement, something the government and Brussels have previously insisted is not possible. Number 10 sources played down the option, insisting the PM gets hundreds of bits of advice every week. The EU's chief negotiator Michel Barnier repeated that the divorce package could not be changed yesterday, and also warned that the bloc's leaders will not sign off an Article 50 extension unless there is a clear majority in Parliament for a way of delivering Brexit. Conservative former cabinet minister Sir Oliver Letwin, who is backing moves to delay Brexit, accepted there was an open question over whether the other 27 EU member states would agree to grant the EU an extension, but said there had been strong signals that they would be ready to _week_card_do_Sonntag. He told BBC Radio 4's Today programme it was possible but unlikely that EU27 would say, "We're not going to give you any more time to do that, you can just jump out of the plane without a parachute and leave without a deal." Sir Oliver dismissed as fanciful Brexiteers' suggestions that the government could prevent an extension of Article 50 by using a procedure known as prorogating to shut down Parliament or asking the Queen to withhold royal assent from backbenchers' bills. These tactics take us back several hundred years to conditions in which the British Constitution was originally developed, he said. The British Constitution is pretty clear. Its Parliament that is elected to pass laws, and when they are passed they need to be enacted and followed by government, and Parliament has to be allowed to do that. I don't think any of these are serious possibilities. He said next week's vote on the Cooper amendment would be tight and its success was not guaranteed even if the Labour frontbench offered its support. The ex-minister said he would continue to vote for Theresa May's deal if it was brought back to Parliament. The requirement for an extension of the Article 50 negotiation process beyond the current Brexit date of March 29 would only kick in if no agreement was reached in the Commons by February 26. Mrs. May pressed ahead with efforts to forge a consensus today, meeting Union leaders including Unite's Len McCluskey in Downing Street. But she has still not held discussions with Jeremy Corbyn, who is refusing to meet her until she rules out leaving the EU with no deal. Airbus today condemned the disgraceful chaos surrounding Brexit and warned it could leave Britain if a no deal threatened its international competitiveness. The aerospace giant, which employs 14,000 people in Britain, warned it could have to make potentially very harmful decisions about its operations in a no deal. It warned there were plenty of countries that would welcome the firm with open arms if Britain became inhospitable to international companies. Airbus' move came as the Dutch government revealed it was in talks with 250 UK firms about luring them to the Netherlands. Fears are rising about the future of British manufacturing amid wobbles in the car industry and after Dyson announced it was relocating its headquarters to Singapore. Tory MP Dr. Sarah Wollaston had planned to table the doctor's amendment to next Tuesday's crunch Brexit motion to demand a second referendum. But stood outside Parliament this morning flanked by pro-EU Labour MPs Luciana Berger and Chuka Umunna. She announced a U-turn. The shock move comes after a massive row among Remainer MPs over when to finally show their hand a caller Commons voter on another referendum. As fears over an accidental no-deal continued to rise despite the Remainer revolt in Parliament, Taoiseach Leo Varadkar has suggested the EU could treat the UK and Ireland as one bloc to avoid a hard But. That could mean customs checks in Calais and other continental ports on goods to the British Isles. In effect, Ireland would be treated as if it were a non-EU country outside the single market and customs union. His comments are further signs of concerns in Dublin over a no-deal Brexit. Throughout the negotiations, Dublin and the EU have stuck rigidly to the line that a backstop was needed to prevent a hard border. But recently there have been signs their alliance is fracturing with Brexit Day looming and no sign of MPs in the UK backing their withdrawal agreement. It is thought Mr. Varadkar is coming under pressure from other EU states to give way on the backstop to get a workable deal through. Yesterday EU negotiator Michel Barnier said technology might be used to avoid the hard border, something Brussels has always ruled out.